Hi everyone, it's Little K from Little K Artistry, here with my little buddy, my mascot, Mr. Bentley. I'm going to put him down so we can get to painting, but I wanted everybody to say hi to Mr. Bentley. He usually goes and takes a nap while I'm painting, and he's not usually allowed in my studio, but I wanted you all to say hi to him and meet my little man, Mr. Bentley. He's 11 pounds of pure love. Right, Mr. Bentley? And you're a good boy. Mwah. I'm going to put him down, and then we're going to get to painting. Be right back. Okay, welcome to my studio. Thank you so much for joining me. As I promised, I am going to be showing you my Li'l K Foggy mix. It's a slight variation of a cloudy pour, and a lot of times I make it a little bit thinner so that it does mix with the paints and gives a little bit more of a foggy consistency, a foggy look. And if you make it a little bit thicker, it will make it a little bit of a cloudy look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the ingredients. I'm going to show you the mix. It's really easy and it's quite simple. There's only a couple of ingredients. And then I'm going to bring one of my thin boards that's just a tester one that I use for testing. It's just these little thin guys here. And I'm going to bring one of those over. I'm going to do a quick pour with this foggy mix that I've got, and I'm going to try and make it look like a storm, like maybe a hurricane, the eye of a hurricane. I'm not sure yet. Hopefully, if it works out, I don't know. You never know what's going to happen when you go in your studio, right? So Little K Artistry, this is my studio. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'm just going to take a few minutes. I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can see my mixing area here. I'm going to mix a little bit of my foggy pour for you. Let me just tilt the camera. And there we go. Okay. Tilt it a little bit more. There. Okay. I am going to mix up a little bit of this foggy pour. I will give you the ingredients. I'll give you the ratios. And if you want to give this a shot, you can try it as well. One thing I will say with this mixture is depending on the paints that you use, sometimes it will mix with the paints. If you layer them in the cup right beside them, it will mix with them and create like that foggy look. And some of the colors, if you use the gold and the fluid acrylics, it doesn't mix quite as much with them, it makes more of a hard line. So I will show you I'm just going to use 4 colors for this one that we're going to do here in just a minute, and I'll show you those in a minute. But first, we want to do some mixing for our foggy pour. Okay, so for this mix, I'm going to be using parts. And for my own personal preference, my one part is actually a little plastic measuring spoon like this, and this is 2 tablespoons. I don't know if you can see that or not. So this is 1 part. So essentially 1 part in this recipe equals 2 tablespoons. So 1 part equals 2 tablespoons. And we are going to go ahead and mix some paints. So this mix, the foggy pours as well as the cloudy pours, these are the only mixes that I use that do use the US Floetrol, the Flood Floetrol, which is this right here. I do use this in the cloudy and the foggy pours. This is the only recipe, the only mix rather, that I do use the Flood Floetrol, because it tends to be not as archival and it does dim the colors a little bit. But because this is a foggy pour, we're not looking for the real bright ones. Okay, so we're going to start with that Flood Floetrol. I like to strain mine and I put it in a little container like this. The Floetrol does tend to have lumps in it, especially once the layer in the bottle goes down. The sides of the bottle tend to dry a little bit, and a layer of that pulls off and it actually gets into the Floetrol, and then as you pour it out, it'll go in your mix. So I like to strain mine and put it in a little container and use it like this. So I'm going to start with the Floetrol, and for this particular mix, I use 2 parts of the American Floetrol. So I'm going to fill this twice, and I like to be pretty precise, so I do scrape it each time. Otherwise, you don't have the full part. That's 1. And there's 2. So that is the base, which is 2 parts of US Floetrol. Set that aside. The next I'm going to use is, this is Vallejo Pearl Medium. I like to give this a little bit of a shake. Don't use very much of this at all. I use 1 part of Vallejo Pearl Medium. So for this mix, I will fill my little measuring spoon up. Again, this is 2 tablespoons, so I'm going to do 1 of these. So 1 part of the Vallejo Pearl Medium goes in the cup with the 2 parts of the US Floetrol. That's those 2. The next one is, I do like to use a little bit of the Artist Loft soft-bodied white. And this, I only use half a part. So 1/2 of a part. And remember, this is a 2 tablespoon mix, 2 tablespoon spoon. So I'm actually gonna only do 1 tablespoon. So this is 1 tablespoon, half of the 2 tablespoons. So 1/2 of the Artist Loft soft-bodied white. And I do like to use a little bit of this, not very much. It does make the fog a little bit lighter, a little bit whiter. The Vallejo Pearl Medium is like off-white. So if you want a really bright white, that's why I put that in there. Now this is where my mix differs a little bit from other people's. I do use a satin enamel, but I use the Behr Marquee satin enamel. Some of the other artists out there like to use a satin enamel that is by Deco Art. It looks like this. I do have this one. This is not in my mix. Instead, I use the Behr. Why do I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. It's a little bit runnier, so it makes it a little more foggy. It makes the mix a little bit more runny. Also, the price difference, this one is a lot more affordable. Comes in a bigger container. And a little while back when I was learning all this, a couple of months ago when I was practicing and experimenting, I was having a really hard time finding that Deco Art satin enamel. It was really difficult to find. I had to buy it online. But the Behr Marquee, you can go into any hardware store and grab this. So it's the Behr Marquee Interior Satin Enamel. And once again, we're going to use 1 part. So let me open this up. And I use 1 part. And you'll see when I dump this out, it's pretty runny. And for me, anyway, everybody's different. Every artist is different. Try and mix things up. Try your own recipe, your own mix, your own blend of ingredients that gets the results that you're looking for. That's the only reason that I decided to come up with this, was because I was looking to get a specific kind of a look in my foggy pours. I didn't want it to be quite as thick looking as it does when you use the Deco Art satin enamel. I wanted it to be a little bit runnier. The other thing that I found is the Deco Art satin enamel tends to break down a little bit once you add water, and I am going to add a little bit of distilled water. Again, I put this just in a squeeze bottle. I am going to thin this out just a little bit with distilled water because it's still, if you can see that, that's still pretty thick. And there are times, and I will tell you, I'll show you in some posts, some videos coming up on my YouTube channel, and please subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified whenever I post a new video. I am going to be showing and posting some videos that I've done with this mix with no water, because it tends to be a lot thicker, and the clouds, or I guess in this case it would be cloudy because it is quite a bit thicker and doesn't look as foggy. They tend to be a lot more chunky, and they stand up versus mixing with the colors. But I like the foggy look. Again, it's your own preference. I do not measure the water. I go by the way that it feels. And I don't know who's out there watching this right now. If you're new to pouring or fluid art and you're watching videos of seasoned artists and they're mixing and they're not measuring, they're just going by the way that it feels. I can tell you when I was first learning this, that frustrated me because I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like. I didn't have the experience. Now I have the experience. I know exactly what I'm looking for. If that's you and you're frustrated by the fact that I'm just squirting the water in and I'm not telling you exactly how much, give yourself time. Practice on the inexpensive boards, inexpensive canvases, use inexpensive paints. Practice so that you get the feel of what the mix is supposed to look like. Whether you're doing a foggy mix, a straight pour, a cloudy pour, if you're doing a Dutch pour like Rinskidonja does, if you're doing one of the swipes like Molly does from Molly's Artistry, just make sure that you're practicing so you too can get familiar with how this feels. Now, I am going to tell you, I'm not going to even try to give you a comparison of what this looks like. Some people say warm honey. I have no idea what that looks like, so I'm not even going to try. But what I will tell you, what works for me is holding this up just a little bit and tracing it in the cup. And if you do this, I'm going to see if I can get you to see this. If you hold it up, trace it over there, I go to one side and then I count and see how long it takes for that over there to blend in, okay? So I want it to be a 2 or 3 second trace. And believe it or not, 3 seconds is a long time. So this is a thicker mix. Okay, now what I want to do is show you a quick pour. I'm not going to use this mix that I just mixed up for you. Instead, I'm going to put that in a little covered container. I got these online. I like to save it and let the air bubbles come out of it. I have some in my tube, my squirt bottle that I did up last night in preparation for this video. I don't mind doing a foggy pour with fresh fog mix because where it is a little bit thinner, the bubbles do tend to dissipate fairly quickly. And if there are a few bubbles in the mix on the painting itself, it actually adds quite a bit of interest, and I don't mind that at all. But for this purposes, for the education part of it, I do want to use my mix that has already settled overnight, and it has hopefully not very many bubbles. So I'm going to set that one aside. I will tell you really quickly, I won't say this is a magic ingredient. However, I have done a couple of tests so far, and I can tell you if you take that mix right there that I just mixed up, my foggy mix, and again, 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part Vallejo Pearl Medium, 1 part Bare Satin Enamel, and 1/2 of a part of the Artist Loft Soft Body White. Mix that all up, a little bit of water. You can take a tiny bit of Flood Floetrol and suspend one of your little piggies in it. This happens to be, I think it's Athena. And then you can suspend that in a little bit of your white cloud mix. See, this is the white foggy mix, and this is the Athena. And what this does, what I noticed is it makes the fog even foggier. And I'm going to be practicing with this Little Piggy pigments, and I also have a couple of different other brands of pigments that I'm going to try. I will say it makes it foggier. It makes the fog pour more watery looking. And it's hard to explain, but I'll show you in one of the next videos that I'm going to post so you can see. I'm going to try it with some purple. I'm going to add some blue. And I want to try and make it so that this foggy mix is kind of foggy looking. So I'm actually thinking about putting the meteorite in there. It's one of the colors I'm going to use today with the white foggy pour. So you can use TLPs. This is Meteorite, and I'm going to use this today in this pour, but this is not the foggy mix. This is just the pour mix. Now, all of my colors that I'm using today, I have TLP Abalone. I have Prussian Blue. This is golden fluid acrylic, so it's going to make those nice hard lines that I like. This is Mars Black, also golden. It is not a fluid. This is from the tube. And this is this little piggy Meteorite. I'm going to be using those with that foggy mix that I mixed up last night. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you how I'm going to layer the cup. Layering is important depending on the look that you want. I kind of had to learn this the hard way because a lot of the artists that I follow online were not showing their actual filling of their cups and their pouring there. Some of them were just showing the final picture, and I had to kind of infer from that, knowing, okay, well, this is what's going to be in the center and this is what's going to be outside, and kind of figuring out as I went. But hopefully this will give you an idea. So what I like to do is I like to have the center of my paintings be a little bit lighter, more clouds, and one color in the very center. And then as we go out to the outside edge, I like to have darker colors on the outside edge. And I can show you one. Actually, here's one that I did. This is a sample of one, and this is actually not completed yet because on the outside here I'm going to actually add some texture. But this is the actual foggy pour in the center there. So it's lighter in the middle and darker as you go out. So that is what I'm going to be doing, hopefully, if I do this right today. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to let you all know is I do like to recycle my paints. I don't know if you have seen any of my previous videos or not, but one of the issues that I have had, one of the frustrations that I've had this whole time on my fluid art journey is waste. I don't like to waste the paints. They're expensive, it's bad for the environment, and I just don't like it. So I do collect my scrapings from all of my pours, my cloudy pours, my foggy pours. All of these go into this one container. I do like to strain it, which is why it says this is strained. I just have a simple strainer here. It's the same one I used for my flood Floetrol. I strain it and I keep it. Occasionally I'll give it a little stir. I'll spin it around like this. That is what I use for my base underneath on my foggy pours. And for some reason, it doesn't show through. So I love that I'm able to use the scraped paint. I love that because there's not hardly any waste. And you'll see as I'm spinning this and working it, I'm going to be scraping it. And what I do is I scrape it off over here onto a layer of a couple of paper towels. And then I put it in through, I dump it in through the strainer and put it back in the container. So I love that. I don't have to worry about any kind of waste. The other thing that you probably will know about me is that I'm a little bit weird about cleaning as I go. So if you've seen any of my other videos, some of the ones that you can go back and watch that have been sped up, they're not real time, you'll see me over there as the painting is spinning, you'll see me over here cleaning and furiously wiping things, and it's what I do. For those of you who know me in real life, I do have a home cleaning business, so I do spend a lot of time actually cleaning things, and I guess it's just because I really like to do it. I like to keep my workplace clean, relatively clean, and let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a hobby for the faint of heart. This is a messy hobby. Okay, so enough said. I am going to put away the ingredients, so I hope you guys caught those. I'm gonna do it one more time. 2 parts, 1 part, 1 part, half a part, and then a little bit of water for a 2 to 3 second trace in the cup. Okay, all right, here we go. You guys ready? I'm ready. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of this. It's a horrible color, ignore. It's a terrible color. This is a mixture of all the cloudy pours I've been doing. It's kind of a greenish gray. I don't know, maybe you like it. I don't really mind it, but this is just a little bit of a base layer so that when I pour out the cup, it has something to slide around on. Otherwise, this is a dry board and it wouldn't slide. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that there for a second. Now, how am I gonna layer the cup? So what I want to do is I want to kind of make this look like a storm. So I am gonna do what I always do, which is a tiny little bit of the cloud in the very bottom, or in this case, the foggy, in the very bottom of the cup. And it's only about, blip, just doesn't even hardly cover the bottom of the cup. Then, I actually think I need to stir my abalone, hold on. Stir my abalone just really quickly. Okay, now this is the light blue. This is abalone, this is this little piggy. Now I want this to be in the center. I'm not gonna put a ton of it in there, a little bit. And then next to that, I'm going to put, this is my favorite blue in the world. This is Prussian blue. I'll put a little bit of Prussian blue. Now my rule of thumb, and you do not have to follow this if you don't want to, 2 colors and then some fog. So I put fog on the bottom, 2 colors, and now I'm gonna put a little bit more of the foggy mix, okay? And then I'm gonna go in with this beautiful meteorite, which is a nice light gray, just a little. And I'm gonna follow that with Mars Black. Okay, now that's 2 colors. So we're gonna put a little bit of the fog in there. Now remember, we had the light colors that are gonna be in the center. I already put those in. So I'm gonna go back to the darker colors. There's the Prussian blue. And there's the Mars Black. And I'm only putting in about a tablespoon. And I'm gonna layer this twice. Now there's not going to be a full cup. This is a small board. I don't need to fill this all the way. Okay, so you'll see it's not a full cup. Trust me, there'll be plenty of paint. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and pour this out, and hopefully that beautiful abalone will be in the middle. All right, here we go. Fingers crossed, everybody. I like to swirl it a little bit at first, kind of big swirls. And then once the lighter color comes in, swirl it, and then I get smaller swirls. And we're gonna get some more of that beautiful blue. Oh my goodness. Now I'm gonna start spinning it very slowly. I want this to look like the eye of a storm. So I do not want to spin it a ton. I don't want it to look like a ring pour. I just want to spin it a little bit. I've got the cup pretty close. And then what I do is I back off a little bit when I see it looking like I want it to look. I tip the cup back a little bit, even if there's still paint in the bottom of it, until it stops dripping out. Okay, so, whew. All right, so there's still a tiny bit left in there, but I didn't want to change the center of it any more than I did. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I am going to torch this a little bit just to bring up some more of that foggy look. Now see, the foggy mixture is mixing really nicely with all of the TLP colors. The blue and the black, not a lot of fog, which is exactly what I wanted, just a little bit. I want it to look like a storm, like a foggy storm. I don't want it to be real patchy. So this is when I decide, am I gonna spin it or am I gonna wait? And I don't see very many bubbles here. So I am gonna spin it. I usually like to do one spin and then I stop it to look. One spin, it's almost, so it leaves the corners a little bit still with the base. So that gives me an idea of what my composition is going to look like when I stretch it out. Now sometimes I'll leave it like this and I'll just keep spinning it. Sometimes I'll spin it a little bit and then I tilt. Okay, so I really am liking what this center is doing. I really like this over here. This part's kind of blah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold this corner and I'm gonna tip this a little bit. One thing that I learned about tipping and tilting your paintings, make sure that you bring the weight of your paints back to the center of your canvas as close as possible. Otherwise, you will warp those beautiful, puffy, cloudy, foggy, oh my goodness, this is looking really pretty. So I try to get the center of the painting back in the middle of the canvas, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch it off that side a little bit as well. And what I wanna do is I want to distort this a tiny bit because it's looking a little bit too circular and I want it to be a little more square, a little more squared off. See if I can get a few more wobbles in. Like this is wobbled right here, a little bit of a wobble. I like the way that looks. So I'm gonna get this right into the center. Once again, okay, now I'm gonna spin it. I don't usually spin it again until I know the weight of the paint is in the center of the canvas again. Okay, wow, yeah, very pretty. Okay, I'm gonna put down some paper towels to catch the runoff. To catch the extra paint when it comes off. Okay, now I'm gonna go this way. See, I stretched it that way. Now I'm gonna stretch it this way a little bit, and then most likely, I'm gonna bring it off center and then spin it because I really like what's going on right here. And I want that to be kind of the focal point of this painting. The center is beautiful. I'm gonna hold it up so you all can see it when I get done here. But you can see where the pigments and the foggy mixture, they've all blended really, really well. Some of the cloud mixtures that you'll see that don't use the bare paint, this product here, the bare satin enamel, some of the ones that don't use that tend to get lots of clouds. And I like to have just a foggy look, so not as many of the big puffies and very specifically placed. So I'm gonna move this off this way a little bit and then I'm gonna spin it. I wanna make sure I get all that icky gray off. There's still a little gray here and a little bit here. So I'm gonna spin it one more time. Beautiful. Now I don't wanna lose that black right there. So I'm gonna just spin one more time. Wow, okay, this, I'm really loving this. Okay, this is beautiful. I don't know if you all can see that. Let me, hold on one second. There's a light. There we go. There, can you see that? I'm just gonna tilt it a little bit because like I said, I want that middle part to be off center. Just a tiny bit, just because it's a little more interesting, I find, when it's off center. We'll spin it one more the other direction. Wow, and I think we're good. I've got a skewer. This is a really beneficial little tool. I just want to make this center a little more of a circle. There we go. All right. Wow, okay, I am going to bring this up to you a little bit closer. And I will, of course, be posting some final pictures of it. There you go. What do you guys think? Does it look like a storm? I think it looks like a storm. You think it looks like the eye of a storm? I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, I am going to go set this out on my drying table. I'm going to say thank you very much. I'm going to scrape this off, and then I'm going to strain it, put it in my leftovers, and do another one. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you use this recipe, this mix, and if you really like it, I would love to have you tag me in your posts. Let me know. Show me the pictures. I want to see what you do with this. I know you guys are going to make things absolutely gorgeous. Give you one last look at this beautiful little storm. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Please share, comment, like. I'm just out here doing what I love and hoping to share some beautiful art with the world. Thank you so much for watching. This is Li'l K from Li'l K Artistry. I appreciate you so much. Have a beautiful day and happy arting out there.